What is your podcast about? Where do people who identify with that topic hang out? Not only in the internet, but in actual real life locations.
Yeah, how can you introduce your podcast to people outside the internet?
And how can you get people talking about your show in general?
And as I am the soldier and poet. Yes, tell this to all the world.
Hello, and welcome to the Pod Sound School podcast. This is the podcast all about the lifestyle of podcasters, content creators, and entrepreneurs trying to carve out our spot online and foster communities, make changes, and create amazing content.
Every week, it's our goal to share, put into practice tips, inspiration, motivation, and bits of wisdom, either from our own experience, the experience of fellow podskis and collaborators, or curated bits from industry experts. I'm Studio Steve.
And I am Veronica. We're audio and video producers, coaches, and your go-to content creation gurus. So come and hang out with us every week. Follow us on your podcast apps. And if you're feeling extra generous, which I think you are, give us a review on your podcast app too.
Please do. Your review would mean so much to us. It's the reviews and feedback that really keep us pumped up and encouraged.
Speaking of reviews, I have a review I want to share.
Okay.
Veronica, your accent is mesmerizing. Your hair is so gorgeous and always on point.
I have a review here too, actually, that I'd like to share. It's
I'm not done.
this
I'm
is
not
still
done.
going.
Yeah.
I wish we can see more of you and less of Studio Steve. Love, Claudio.
Claudio 46. Well, okay, here's mine.
Studio Steve, you are absolutely my favorite host. Your voice is not only booming and jovial and turn-oning-ishness, but I fall asleep to your voice every night.
I don't see that review on Apple Podcasts. Where
It's
was
there.
that?
You just have to scroll down.
Please. Your review doesn't have to go to the extent of, give us compliments about our looks, but
But if you could
we
mention,
want to hear from you.
if you mention in your review who your favorite host is, and you take a screenshot of that, and then you share that or tag us on social media with that screenshot, I'll do something outrageous.
Studio Steve would make a video of himself doing 30 push-ups
30 push-ups,
and
yes,
post it on our Instagram story.
wearing my son's t-shirt. And he's 12 and he's very skinny. All right. And I'll put on my son's a 12-year-old t-shirt and do 30 push-ups. But you have to mention in the review that I'm your favorite host, and then tag
Take
us.
a screenshot of the review and post it on social media and tag us.
Yes.
So we know.
So we know. Now that all of the mamadas, as Veronica would say, is out of the way, we are finishing up our 3-part series all about building a brand with your podcast. And this is part 3, and it's really going to be insightful and a valuable one. And we're talking all about going outside,
Going outside.
both literally and figuratively. We're talking about these often overlooked but incredibly important and effective marketing strategies. Most of these strategies are completely free, and some of them you can actually be paid for. In this episode, we're going to break it down into 3 parts. The first one is events and gigs. Then we're going to talk about SEO. And then the third one is word of mouth marketing. And I think Veronica has discovered is it an acronym that she loves for that. And don't forget to stay until the end when we'll finish up the episode with your weekly homework.
La Tarea.
Okay, let's get to it.
Number 1, events and gigs.
After a while of posting podcast episodes, and especially as you refine your brand and develop a small following on a few different platforms, you really begin to stand out as an authority surrounding your topic.
And the mere fact that you have a podcast that's been going a while, that has some nice looking cover art and a matching social media profile, makes you a prime candidate for all sorts of public events, speaking opportunities, interviews, invitations, etc. And if we're looking, most of us live in places populated enough that we can easily find relevant events where our voice and presence would just make sense. A place where we could teach at or be a contributor into some nuance. And so, Veronica, could you come up
Yes.
with a mock podcast idea that we could use for an example?
Oh, let's say I am a chef and I want to have a podcast about Latin cuisine, the tight, deep relationship Latinos have with food.
Okay, do you have a name for your podcast? Maybe just like Food Latinx?
Or Eat Your Pan de Bono.
Eat Your Pan de Bono. We'll call it that. If you
But
haven't,
for those of you who don't know what pan de bono is, it's not a pastry. Yeah, it's kind of
it's
a
a
pastry.
ball of cheesy bread.
It's a ball of cheesy bread and it's amazing.
It's a ball of cheesy, amazing
pan de
goodness.
bono.
It's a ball sent
it's from
directly
my-
from the divine.
Yes, it's from my city in Colombia, Cali,
It's amazing.
and it's amazing.
So I have a podcast called Pan de Bono.
No, Eat Your Pan de Bono.
Oh, Eat Your Pan de Bono. And I'm a chef and it's all about Latin cuisine. Where could I reach out to spread the word about my show locally?
So there are so many things that you can do. Like one that comes to my mind, which is something that now I'm interested in. Like I want to have a podcast about that.
Okay, here we go.
I would reach out to local Latin communities, and especially those who are attached to the food industry, and see what kind of events they're run throughout the year.
Yeah.
It can be like food trucks. I imagine myself interviewing people at these events.
Yeah,
And
talking about it. Oh, and you can get those interviews on your podcast.
I can get those interviews on my podcast, and I can also like get them right there when they're cooking, and also get people to talk about their relationship with food.
And I hope you make sure you get the sizzling pan sounds.
The sizzling pans and all that. Yeah, because
And the farmer's
Latinos, we are
market.
all about our food, and abuela's kitchen, grandma's kitchen.
Oh,
and
there's a
all
whole
those
series
things.
called Abuela's
We
Kitchen.
attach a lot of our feelings.
And you
to
make sure you get
food.
your abuela in there
Yeah.
too. And then
That's why that's why I love you, because you cook amazing.
Oh, thank you. That's the only reason you keep me around.
That if you want to get to a Colombian's heart, you have to get to the stomach first.
Ooh, see, and there's your motto. The way to a Colombian's heart is through the stomach. That's
Through
the
the
motto of
stomach.
your show. And then here, something that came to my mind is you could do like cooking lessons, right?
Yeah.
Latin cooking lessons, a free event that you can hold somewhere that does these kind of things, sponsored by Eat Your Pan de Bono podcast, right? So you put your name out there, you build your brand by associating yourself with events that you would have fun. I mean, you're a chef anyway, right? And then, you reach out to local restaurants. And the idea is hopefully you can see with us just kind of, shooting around some mock ideas.
Yeah.
Hopefully that sparks some things for your imagination.
Yeah. And the storytelling element of this would be fascinating.
So that's really cool. And that's basically like the first idea is events and gigs. It's about looking out into your local world and seeing what's going on around the topic of your show that you can directly be a part of. And with that, we can move on to number 2.
Numero dos.
Number 2, SEO.
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 So when talking about SEO, we really just need to talk about having a website. So Veronica, why is it important for us as podcasters to have a website?
There are a few reasons, many reasons why you should have a website, but I think the ones that come to me right now is number 1 would be SEO and how having a website, and not only having a website and forget that you have a website, but to post content on your website that will generate traffic and that will boost your SEO or search engine optimization. It's so important to be discovered on Google, which is one of the biggest search engines, along with YouTube. You don't have to go all out. You don't have to hire people to help you with your website. If you have the budget for it, yes, go ahead and do it. But you can do it on your own nowadays.
Yeah.
Squarespace, Wix.
There's lots of
There's just so many of them.
The most
and
popular ones are like Squarespace, Wix, Shopify, and WordPress.
And WordPress, yeah. And you can have a really nice website. And within your website, you want to make sure that you have a blog
section.
A blog section.
Yeah.
You can have a blog section. And within that blog section, then for each episode, you want to have a blog post, a blog article. And within that article, then you want to embed your episode. This will it will do wonders for you.
Yeah. And I love that. And then
also optimize your blog article, which it will be like an episode for us to cover the entire thing of how to optimize your blog. But just make sure that you do a little bit of research regarding that, because they're like titles and subtitles and keywords and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
So
that.
quickly, if I were to have an episode about my abuela's kitchen, what I would do is I would Google things around the title at least of my episode, or I do little keyword research. And hopefully you're doing keyword research for your brand anyway, so you know what keywords you're trying to target. We're going to get to that at the end. It may be a hint towards your homework. But the most important little bits of writing or copy for your SEO would be the actual title of the blog article itself,
title, yeah.
and then subheadings and the headings within the article. And Google loves numbers.
So, and then the other reason why having a website is important is because it's your storefront. And I call it also your resume. What do we do when somebody gives us a business card, or we hear about some information or a person or a business that we're like interested in? Then we go to Google and we search for that.
Yeah.
And what do we find first is their website.
Yeah.
And if their website is a mumble jumble, it's not very attractive, it doesn't have a clear message,
or they don't have one.
Is you can't find anything. It's just, it doesn't give that like, oh, it's something that is official, that there's a presence in the internet for this podcast, business, whatever.
Yeah. And it doesn't, again, when we go back to like speaking gigs and things like that, if you want to start, really spreading the word by going outside, it really helps to have a website.
With a clear message. And what you do and all that.
And the other thing I want to hit on that has to do with the storefront, but it's different, is that it helps you to have landing pages for anything you're doing. So a landing page for every individual episode, which can be fun, but also landing page for those events that you might be a part of. And then also you can make short links or pretty links. So for example, we have podsoundschool.com/community, which brings you directly to our Facebook community. We have podsoundschool.com/jumpstart, which you could go to right now and get a free how to start your podcast jumpstart guide, which is a freebie that we put together. So there's lots of different things that you can use when you have a website those are some of the reasons you need a website. I'm not very eloquent right now.
I know.
It's that pan de bono.
Is it pan de bono?
But it's true. So if you were to Google Pan de Bono podcast and you find pandebonopodcast.com, it's going to look a lot more legit. And there's a lot of things you could do with it. Plus, it's always a good idea to start building a website and to secure your URL, meaning yourpodcastname.com, because we can't rely on social media platforms. We can't even rely on the state of the podcast players as they are now. We have no idea where that's going to. Everyone has their guesses, but the industry's changing. So when you have a website, you can really own your own content. And it's a little expensive, but not really. The domain will cost you about $10 a year for that domain name. And then the website itself, the services vary, but you're going to get up in your $15 a month expense, but it's worth it. You have to have a website at your storefront. Finally, to finish up on that, you can sell stuff. It being a storefront. That's why Veronica used the word storefront. So we don't need to get into that so much. I just wanted to talk about that before we really talk about a couple other SEO things. And then we'll be done with this point, which is SEO. Well, why did we bring up SEO in this episode where we're talking about going outside? I thought SEO is search engine optimization. Well, that is a question I want to ask you, Podski, not you, Veronica, is have you Googled, quote, podcasts in or from, and then the name of your state, end quote. So like podcasts in North Carolina for us. When you're building your SEO, it can be really helpful to target keywords that include your city, region, or state. That's one way that actually a lot of SEO strategists work with beginning websites, because they call it a long tail search term. So you take the keyword itself, like Colombian cuisine, but then you put Latin cuisine or Latinx cuisine, and you put that in a search term. That's going to be a very highly searched term. That's going to take you as a beginner a long time to rank for. You're going to be hundreds and hundreds down the list. But on the other hand, if you said Latin cuisine in Raleigh, North Carolina, Now you're talking about a much less searched term that isn't searched as much, so it's less competitive. And you might actually be able to, if you work on that term enough and you continue to build your SEO, you'll be able to rank for that eventually on that first page of Google search results. And that's pretty powerful. And using some tools for this, and we're going to get to that also at the end with our homework, you can really find out whether or not you can compete for certain keywords and things like that. But I just wanted to bring up SEO and how you can actually utilize your local area, going outside where you live, and then bringing that back online to really kind of build, your SEO.
And if you are a little lost when we were talking about SEO and keywords and all this, we have videos on our YouTube channel talking about SEO. It's a series of steps or practices that you should follow every time you post content online, so it's discovered by the different search engines.
Yeah.
For example, on YouTube, then certain keywords or things that people are like directly typing on the search bar.
Yeah.
How to bake a vegan cake. So that can be the name of one of your videos.
Or how to make a pan de bono.
How to make a pan de bono.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all those things that people are searching online. And if somehow you can incorporate that into your content, it's like mind-blowing.
Yes.
And it's free.
It's free.
It's just like, it blows my mind that people are not using it.
Yeah, that they don't.
Because it's totally free and you can take advantage of like millions and billions of people searching for stuff on these search engines, and you can get your content in front of more people.
Yes.
If you apply these steps.
And there are very expensive programs that will do this for you, that SEO strategists, and I don't know the correct term for SEO people, but they use one is Ahrefs, the other one is SEMrush, and then the other one is Longtail Pro. I love Longtail Pro because Longtail Pro is more affordable than the prior two that I mentioned.
And what's the Neil Patel one?
Oh, that one's cool too, but I forgot what the Neil Patel one is. We could leave it in the links of this description. We're going to leave some SEO tools, but like Veronica said, you can do it for free. You
can do it for free, and you don't have to get like way too deep, like study SEO for months and months to apply it to your content. No.
You just need one of these.
Simple practices will get you.
One of these tools that will tell you whether or not something's searched, how much it's searched for. But the quickest hack that you could do for SEO is you simply go to Google and you use the auto suggest feature that Google has. So you could type, for example, Latin cooking and then the letter A, or you could just type Latin cooking and then see what comes up after it, because it's going to auto-populate the long tail keywords. So whenever somebody types in Latin cooking, what are the most common things and the most trending things that people are typing in? And then there's an amazing tool that we'll talk about later in the episode too, and that's Answer the Public. And Answer the Public actually does that for you. Then you could just make your own spreadsheet, and we're going to get to that with the homework. So a little bit ahead of ourselves, but Veronica did do a really great video on YouTube, and we'll leave that in the links where you're listening to this. So make sure to come back to this later if you're mowing the lawn or if you're doing chores around the house, and check out that SEO
Walking
video.
The dog.
Yes.
You're on your way to get pan de bonos.
So that kind of finishes up number 2. So we're just cruising through this episode.
Number 3, word of mouth.
Outside and inside the interwebs.
Get people talking.
Veronica.
Oh, sorry, that was in the script.
With word of mouth, or WOM.
WOM. I like to call it WOM. Or you can say WOM marketing. WOM.
With word of mouth, we're talking about these main ideas, and this is a list. So the first one is providing an experience, then creating shareable content, finding ways to evoke emotional responses. That's the third one. The fourth one, gathering authentic reviews. And then the last one, engaging with responses and reviews. And so, Steven, you look like you're falling asleep.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Let's quickly go over each point.
Okay.
What do we mean by this?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the main idea, word of mouth marketing, is still top contender in terms of marketing, and probably even more so than it ever was with social media. When I was researching for this episode, there's so many cool statistics out there, especially when it comes to businesses and how likely you are to buy something based off of whether somebody recommends it or not. That's kind of word of mouth marketing. It's been going on way before the times of the internet, and it's still going on even more prevalent today. And it's just basically, how can you get people talking about you, and how can you get people talking about your show and recommending it to other people? So the first point that Veronica mentioned was providing an experience. This is really cool. A lot of businesses try to do this, but we can take advantage of this ourselves as podcasters. And it's just like thinking of ideas that you can provide an experience with your podcast. So I don't know if you have any ideas off the top of your head with that, Veronica, that might spark some inspiration for the listener.
So when we're talking about providing an experience in the context of audio podcasting, it's, for me, it's storytelling.
Yeah.
So to give you an example, so that's the way that you can start providing an experience, and also all the technical nuances of producing audio, and just make sure that your audio is really good.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take the listener out of the experience with all like weird noises and the background noises and the dog barking and somebody sending you text messages or all the kitchen noises and whatever. But is the storytelling element that is what provides an experience in podcasting. And it can apply. I mean, I tell everybody, you challenge me. Like, I have a podcast about
fitness, or personal finance.
Yeah, personal finance. Like, you hook me with a story of somebody who had made a bad financial decision because of lack of information, or you start that podcast episode with a story of somebody who did really, really well because they decided to be informed and they decided to reach out and have experts helping them to learn how to invest.
Yes.
So it's the storytelling that for me does it in podcasting.
I love that.
In the case, in my example, it would be like the stories of people I interview, like, tell me, what was that point in your life when that some kind of dish or some kind of meal that got you closer to somebody?
Yeah.
And people can tell you, oh, well, there was this time that I shared this meal with my mom and we cried over because I just got a divorce, or, something. It's always,
there's so many stories
involved, like over food. Eating. So that would be like providing an experience, is just to bring the listener into the story.
Yes. And I love that. And I think we can basically put two subpoints under this. So this point of providing experience, the first point is storytelling. How can you tell a story with your content? You don't have to be an audio drama to do this. You can do it very easily. And even if you just insert a story at the beginning, it can be a story about yourself, even where you're at in that moment. Bring the listener into a story. People love storytelling. And then the other one is editing. That is what I was going to say. And Veronica hit on that. How can you incorporate music? How can you incorporate little storytelling pieces? And you can storytell with the way that you edit. What can you do with your podcast that will make it more immersive, that will actually make it more professional sounding? Don't be afraid to challenge yourself and go there and spend a little more time on each episode and develop your show more. That is an immediate way you could get word of mouth, because there's so many trash sounding podcasts out there. One way that you could get people talking about your show is, man, that podcast sounds great. So audio production and storytelling is an example.
Storytelling. And I'm a big advocate for storytelling.
Yeah, and I'm a big advocate for audio production.
Yeah, it's like, when you get that, let me tell you a story. Like,
whoa, you got me.
Oh my God, yeah, you got me.
You could even start the episode that.
Yeah, or you always have that friend that has the best storytelling skills. And they're just like get into the story. You just love when they're telling stories.
Yeah, exactly. So now if we move on to the next two, creating shareable content. So this is shareable content. When I say that, I immediately think of an Instagram carousel that has points to it. Shareable content are hacks, DIY tips, fun things that people, oh, hey, did you know this? So GIFs, things like that. So this is content that would be outside your podcast, but still on the internet probably. And it would be, for pan de bono, it would be like recipes right? Would be a really cool shareable things.
Yeah.
Little TikTok videos.
And it doesn't have to be only on the internet, because you can go to an event and provide a recipe too, like you were saying, like print some stuff out and just make sure that you add all of your information and your website and
or just
that
a
little
QR code.
printout or QR code.
People love those QR codes. Yeah. Also, you could go to a different, like a food hall or somewhere where there is a lot of Latin food being served, and see if there's a place you could leave your QR codes for like homemade Latin recipes provided by and again, don't forget to throw your podcast name on there. Let's stay branded. Let's stamp everything with the name of our podcast. So that's create shareable content. And then the next one is finding ways to evoke emotional responses. I just kind of wanted to jump to this one because it's similar to providing an experience. But really, if you think about emotions and how much we're driven by emotions, if a podcast makes you cry, you're going to tell people about it.
Yeah.
You'll tell everybody in your immediate life, oh my God, I was listening to this podcast and it got me in tears. Right? Or
they make me laugh so hard.
They make me laugh so hard. So what are different ways that you can evoke emotional responses? You don't have to be a comedian. You don't have to have a comedy show. You could have a personal finance show. You could have any imaginable podcast topic or style or format. You can get emotional responses out of people. And I would say do that through storytelling. What other ways can you do that? Emotional responses, I would say the same too. And also editing.
Yeah. And then one of the things that also, like, we've been trying to work on this, because at the beginning of our journey as content creators, we don't want to make anybody mad. We want everybody to like agree with what we have to say. We want to be likable.
Yeah.
Right. But it gets to a point when you're just going to have to choose a side and embrace your opinions and have an opinion.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be polarizing, because that way, like, even respectfully, because you don't want to insult people. But if you have strong opinions about certain issues, then yes, you can express them on your podcast. And yes, some people will walk away, but there are other people who will come in and will be part of that.
Yeah.
So, a strong personality, strong opinions, strong stances on things.
Yeah.
Then you just like go for it. And that way, you're authentic and
yeah, you're authentic. And I think even in an industry, let's say you have a personal finance again, or you have, I don't know, a podcast that helps you, you have an employment company where you help people get employed or something, right? So you're careful because your podcast is attached to your business. But actually, even in business, to take a strong stance over topics makes you stand out in business. I always go back to Gary Vee with his F-bombs.
Yeah.
I think his F-bombs are half the
reason.
reason.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, he's cool.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, some people that make you angry.
Yeah.
Or some people, what you don't want to be is a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And so the people, they don't know how to feel. They don't know if they agree with you or not, because you haven't expressed your opinions.
Yeah.
Like, it took us a long time for us to be in this position where we're like, listen, we're all about creating professional audio.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't compromise quality. We teach you how to do the best, how to make the best content with what you have in the moment. But that's what we strive for.
Yeah. And I think really just what you're talking about, to put it in just like a single sentence, controversy. Be controversial.
Yeah.
Controversial is one technique you could do immediately to get emotional responses, both negative and positive. And, you'll hear people say that, bad publicity is still publicity.
Yeah. We have pissed some people off because of what we say about, you need to edit your podcast.
Yeah, we get a lot of we get some backlash based off of certain standpoints that we take, and we still are strong with those standpoints. And it's our opinion, and that's how we do business. And so it's good. Honor your opinions. And podcasting's so cool that way, because it is the one place where we don't have any gatekeepers. And it's a really strong place that let's say you are a business and you have a podcast, that your customers can learn about your values and whether or not they agree with you. And you can attract the customers that you want that do agree with your values, right? So then the last two, and these are just really quick, is gathering authentic reviews and engaging with the responses and reviews you get. So any quick ideas or tips about how you can gather or garner authentic reviews?
Well, one of the things is that I don't forget that there are people listening and just making part of your journey. And like we did it at the beginning of this episode, like how we were asking you to share your thoughts about our podcast.
Yeah.
That's one way that you can get people to interact with you, is just share your thoughts with me. Like your opinion is really valuable. If you are having a good experience with the show, I would love to know. So reach out to me on social media, leave a review here on the podcast player. I wanna listen, and I wanna create this show for you.
Yeah. And then once you get a review, figure out ways that are tasteful for you to share that. I really think it's great to share that on social media, not necessarily on the podcast episodes. Veronica and I were kind of making fun of each other by sharing fake reviews earlier on in this episode. But if you watched or listened to, we have a video and an episode about the 10 things that annoy podcast listeners. People really were up in arms about, they call them Oscar acceptance speeches that podcasters do at the beginning of their episodes, where you read off reviews. It's cool for that person to be able to hear that, but it's also cool for that person to see that on social media. You could tag them on social media if you can find it. And you could tell them and so instead of reading off 15 reviews that you get every episode, or talking about your patrons, or talking about all that community driven stuff, you could say, hey, on my Instagram account or on my Twitter account, I always make sure to share the reviews and give shout outs to all the people who are reviewing me. And I go live there. I show up on Instagram stories, whatever it is. I think that's my current preferred way of engaging with those responses and reviews.
Yeah.
But it's really important that you do. And with the responses and reviews too, something that we do on YouTube, and I think this can also be applied to your podcast reviews that they give you on the players. If the problem with the reviews on the players is there's no communication back and forth. That's changing, and there are actually podcast apps where you can respond to. There are some players, I forget which one it is, really cool, where you can actually respond when people comment about your podcast. And that's cool. I would love to see that technology continue, because that's how YouTube is.
Yeah.
And so with YouTube, it's not just thanks, right? That's not engaging. It's to then ask more questions. So, oh, thank you. I'm so glad you felt that way. What's your favorite dish? What's your favorite Colombian dessert? Or what was your favorite memory with your abuela?
Yeah.
Now
keep the conversation going.
Keep the conversation going. Yep.
I have an idea for those of you who are listening to this episode and want to reach out to us. Why don't we ask them to do something?
Yeah, please.
So wherever you are listening to this episode, pull up your phone and take a picture of you listening. And post it on social media. Post it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And tag us.
Any kind of a picture. It could be a picture of yourself. It could be just a screenshot of the podcast. It could be a screenshot of this episode. A picture of yourself would be preferred.
Yeah.
And tag us in it, and we will do some very outrageous, engaging, and we'll demonstrate our half of how you engage or respond to reviews.
Yeah, we will.
And it'll be great.
It may shock you.
It might. And you might really wish you didn't participate.
That's another point. Like, do things that will shock your audience.
Yeah, why
but
not?
In a good way.
Yeah, or whatever you feel is a good way.
Don't moon them.
Moon them. Okay, and now, finally, your favorite part of Pod Sound School's episodes. And this is your homework, La Tarea. I'll cover number 1. There's only really 2 big things you have to do this week. And if you are mowing the lawn, like I mentioned, or doing the dishes, or, trying to strangle your kid from the front seat, you can find this homework in the episode notes right where you're listening to this, so you can come back and make sure you do this homework before you pop back in next week. Number 1 is Google topical podcasts and local events in your area. With this Pan de Bono thing, I think we already explained how you would do that. You would Google Latin food events in Raleigh, North Carolina, whatever it is, right? And here's some questions to ask when you're doing this. Are there any events or locations that you could speak or present or even just network at? Where can you leave a biz card or a QR code? What other podcasts are being produced in your area? Can you reach out to those podcasts that are being produced in your area and maybe cross-promote or cross-guest? And that's your first point. Number 2, now, after you've done that, I want you to choose 5 target keywords, at least 5, but 5's good for now, that you'd like to rank for. It's crazy to us how many people haven't done this, how many people don't do keyword research. You can empower your content creation with keyword research. You basically make your same content. You just sort of, manipulate your title a little bit so that it fits into this target keyword. So there are some tools like we mentioned, and you'll find links to all these tools. The free ones are Keyword Surfer, and that is a Google Chrome extension. It's free. And that one's really cool because you could type anything into Google and it tells you how many times per month it's searched. And then it also populates similar search terms and gives you all sorts of fun data, all for free. So you can really start playing with that. The other one is Answer the Public. So go to Answer the Public and type in Latin cuisine, pan de bono, whatever it is that's topical, big keyword ideas that you have. So is there something that you're always talking about, right? Like any topical things that your episodes are about a lot? Type those in, Answer the Public, and you'll get tons of search insights as far as what people are searching for. Or should I say, you'll get the long tail keyword or many words of what people are searching for the smaller words, right? The other tool is TubeBuddy. If you're on YouTube, TubeBuddy's amazing for what it does. And then using these tools, something that's a really good idea to do as well is to check out what populates when you search for those keywords. So what comes up, like what content comes up, I mean. So if you go into YouTube, for example, and you type in pan de bonos or whatever keyword you're targeting, what videos come up? Or on Google, what blog articles come up? How can you contribute to that pile of stuff of population search, what populates in the search? And, just think about how your content compares. And that's a really good peer review or competitor analysis, however you want to say that. And then finally, what happens when you add your location to the tail of the keyword? And we already talked about that too. So
this homework is research homework, but you'll get extra credit if you put the research into action. Reach out to people, events, fellow podcasters, etc. Offer yourself as a speaker, presenter, or simply be social and network. Start thinking about how your brand and your show can provide a real experience for your listeners, viewers, and readers, both online and offline. What emotional response do people have with your show and your brand? How can you multiply that response? How can you really get into the heads and hearts of your audience? What problems can you solve for them? How can you show up for them and give them that little push they need?
yes, and finally, what did you think about this 3-part series? We took our time with this. We got off script. We did a lot of outlining, a ton of research. Our previous episode, I shared a lot of my frustrations, and the episode before that was really cool too. Did you listen to all 3? Mm-hmm. Let us know.
And if you haven't, go back and listen to those 2 episodes. They will make more sense if they're listened to together.
Yeah, and this 3-part series is all about branding because it's that important. And as we have mentioned in that, we also have a YouTube video that's a shortened version of all 3 of these that you could go check out. You'll find that link where you're listening to this too. But as we mentioned in this 3-part series and in that video, is if you're posting anything online, you have a brand and you are a brand. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a personal brand, a business brand, whatever it is, you're a brand. It's just a stamp. It's something that makes you unique as a person. Mm-hmm. So this is a really valuable thing to take 3 episodes to talk to you about because you can really start creating with power and really getting some amazing results with your podcast by, just thinking about these things and making plans for your future. Mm-hmm. So with that, we will leave you to finish your mowing of the lawn or to put the leaves in a bag or whatever it is that you're doing.
Oh, and remember the 2 things you need to do besides your homework is to leave a review. Mm-hmm. Mention who your favorite host is.
Inside the review, you leave.
Inside the review, yeah. And
so that's one thing.
That's one thing.
Then you take a screenshot of it and share that screenshot of your review or a picture of you and tag us on either Twitter or Instagram. Mm-hmm. And whoever your favorite host is will have to do something outrageous.
Yes.
Whether it's
you're your 30 push-ups.
Me, I'm 30 push-ups. You, I haven't figured out yet what yours is, but it's going to be something very outrageous.
Okay.
I think it'll be you. I don't know. I'm not sure. Something outrageous. And actually, if you have any suggestions, we might take up the suggestions too of outrageous behavior.
Okay.
And until next time.
I'm not afraid. I'm a Colombian.
Yeah. And until next time, we love you. Good luck with all of your content creation and entrepreneurial and podcasting endeavors. You know where to find us at Pod Sound School on any social media platform.
We love you.
And until next time,
Happy casting. Amigo mío. Go eat your pan de bono.
Pan de bono. Robotica. What was the Jetsons again?
Go eat your pan de bono. Oh, Robotina.
Robotina.